Welcome in to another edition of The Locker Room. I'm your host, Cade Crenshaw, joined today by Miss Kendall Smith and Will Heffernan. And it's going to be an exciting edition of the program. We're talking NFL Combine plus the XFL 3 weeks in. Is things working? How's the league working out? That's going to be an exciting conversation later on. Guys, at first, let's start off with the NFL Scouting Combine going on this week through the weekend. Of course, this is the chance for scouts and head coaches to get a look at many of these prospects, not only the top-tier prospects, we know the Joe Burrows and the Tuas and the Chase Youngs of the world, but the guys that come out of the lower Power Fives, even the FCS schools. The NFL Combine is an opportunity for them to really put their skills on showcase on a platform that they haven't had during their collegiate careers. Kendall, I want to start with you. For the NFL Combine, who are some of those guys you think can maybe make a name for themselves this week?
Well, obviously you were talking about Tua, and I think he is a very important aspect to this combine. He didn't participate today. Today was the last day that quarterbacks made a name for themselves at the combine. But coming off of his injury, I think people might have been a little bit skeptical as to how he was going to come back, how he was going to compete against Joe Burrow, who is the other quarterback that is in the conversation for that #1 overall draft pick. So for me personally, he was that one. Even though he clearly is known to be very talented, very good, he's not necessarily an underdog when it comes to the NFL Scouting Combine. He was one of those that I was personally really excited to see out there coming off of his injury and proving that, I can step up and I am well and I'm okay to be out there on that field.
That's the big question surrounding Tua Tagovailoa, Alabama's former quarterback. If he's medically cleared, he's in the #1 pick conversation. With his injury kind of unknown, most mock drafts still have him in the top 5. So if and when I believe he will get that medical clearance to go ahead, that's a game changer. That is a total game changer. I kind of see him at Alabama's Pro Day too. I think he'll get some work in there, and we're going to kind of see what's the new look Tua kind of going to be in the NFL coming off of that scary hip injury he had in college. Will, for you, who are some of those names you're watching at NFL Combine?
Yeah, definitely. So some of the other quarterbacks also I think are very interesting prospects to look at. Justin Herbert is a key one. He's kind of the #3 name in the race. In terms of just intangibles, he's bigger, he got the strongest arm, and he definitely has the ability to impress at the Combine. I know there were some questions about his attitude, but in interviews he's given, meeting with scouts, they seem to like what he was showing with that. I believe he was named MVP at the Senior Bowl, so he definitely has the potential to work his way into that conversation. Another one who's kind of lower down on the list is Jacob Eason. He had kind of an untraditional college career where he started at Georgia. He was a big name there, then got replaced by Jake Fromm and had to transfer to Washington. He definitely has the ability to work his way up into that conversation if he performs well.
The quarterback pool is interesting, especially right now in the state of the NFL that we are. A lot of the older veterans that have been really mainstays in the game, they're transitioning out of the league. Eli Manning, he's called it a career. Phillip Rivers, he's out of LA with the Chargers looking for a new home. Tom Brady, who knows where number 12 may end up in the offseason if he doesn't go back to Foxborough. Not only that, but Cam Newton is kind of floating around the trade market to see if the Panthers are going to keep him among tons of other names that are out there. Marcus Mariota, even Jameis Winston for the buy lows right now. But even those teams that are looking for quarterbacks, there's plenty in this draft. Joe Burrow, Tua Tagovailoa, Justin Herbert, Jordan Love, Jacob Eason, Jake Fromm. The list goes on and on about quality quarterbacks. For me, I want to look at this wide receiver class, right? I mean, this is a very, very solid receiver class that's going to be a game changer in the league. I think we see maybe 4 to 5 guys go in that first round. But overall, maybe 15 guys in the top 100 picks. I've seen some experts go all the way as high as 25 receivers in the first 100, which would be astronomically high. But that's an exciting idea for me to watch is the receivers, how they compete, who kind of has that best combine performance moving forward. And of course, the receivers, they always run the 40 time, right? And the 40 time is something we always love. Who can be the fastest man at this year's combine? Well, you look back a couple years ago, John Ross out of Washington broke the record for the fastest 40 time at 4.22. Will, does anybody break that this year? And also, do you feel like the 40 time matters in the grand scheme of things?
Yeah, so I think that Henry Ruggs definitely has an opportunity to beat it this year. I know he's claimed that he wants the shot at it and he thinks that he can do it. I think that he's got the best chance. In terms of whether it really matters, speed obviously kills in the NFL. You see Tyreek Hill doing it. He's such a dangerous weapon. So it definitely matters, but in terms of like the grand scheme of things, I don't think it's super important from a scouting point of view.
Kendall, what do you think? That 40 time, how much does it matter?
So I would like to agree with Will. I do obviously think that speed is an extremely effective thing for wide receivers, but on the other end, you have to consider many other factors when it comes to their talent. It shouldn't just be brought down to speed. I mean, if you have a very fast wide receiver, that's fantastic, but if you have another one that's a trace slower but has better hands or, other factors about them that might cause them to be a little bit more talented, I believe that might be needed you might need to take that into consideration more than just that 40 time. And that's with a lot of sports. I mean, baseball, you see that, when they're running and they're going down, like you have to really take into consideration other things besides speed, though it is a very important aspect.
Neither of you are wrong. You both mentioned speed. And you mentioned a name I really like, Henry Ruggs out of Alabama. He's an exciting player who's lightning fast. He's got a real shot at John Ross's 40 record at 4.22. We'll see how he breaks it down. Finally, for you guys on the combine, we talked about some big names, the Tuas and the Burrows of the world, even Herbert. Do either of you have those under the radar guys that you're watching this week?
I personally am very sad. This is kind of a little bit off topic, but two people that I was really looking forward to at the beginning, actually, of South Carolina's football season to seeing in this combine was Javon Kinlaw and, of course, Bryan Edwards, both of whom are not going to be participating in the combine. For me, those were two people I really wanted to see out there, and it's upsetting that they won't be out there. Of course, Kinlaw said that he is going to be participating in South Carolina's Pro Day, which is on March 19th, but I think we were talking about wide receivers. Bryan Edwards being talked about taken possibly in the second round of the draft, which is very exciting. So just speaking in terms of South Carolina, where we are right here in the state of South Carolina, Columbia, I was looking forward to seeing them and definitely will be looking forward beyond just this scouting combine to seeing Kinlaw at Pro Day for South Carolina, making a name for our university here. Yeah,
Kinlaw rumored to be a top 15 pick in this year's draft, which is exciting in itself. Will, for you, any guys that are kind of flying under the radar right now?
On the under the radar, I would say nobody that I'm super looking for. What's really interesting to me is the battle for the top defensive lineman spot between, again, Javon Kinlaw and Derek Brown of Auburn. Kinlaw obviously made a big name for himself at the Senior Bowl, came out basically at the top of the class, the defensive lineman there, had some high praise from Todd McShay. I'll be interested to see how Derek Brown responds at the Combine since Javon Kinlaw is not participating.
Now, these are the guys that are on their way to the NFL, but some of them who don't get drafted may head over to the new XFL, right? We're 3 weeks in now, and I can think back on previous episodes in this season of Locker Room, how, we talked about, is it going to work? How are things going to look? The new kickoff rules and things like that, which I personally really, really like that new kickoff setup. Kendall, for you, 3 weeks in, is the XFL working? Is it going to last?
So this has been something I have been struggling with immensely to determine whether or not I am for the XFL or not for the XFL. Now, personally, I see it kind of as like a AAA vibe for MLB or a G League we were talking about a little bit earlier in terms of the NBA. I think from a fan perspective, it isn't as exciting. It's new right now. We don't obviously have the NFL going on, so I think a lot of people are turning to it because it is football in the off season. I don't know if I see it necessarily working long term. I know it's been off and on in the past. People have had talks about it. It didn't end up happening. Now it is officially a thing. I'm not quite sure I can get on board with it yet. I'm going to need to see more consistency out of it. I'm going to need to see that fans and players and coaches alike are going to want to continue to keep this train rolling because it's one of those things where, it's new, so you don't necessarily know how it's going to fare in the future.
Well, the Extra Fun League is back 3 weeks in. Will it continue and be something that is not like the AAF that completely collapsed about midway through? Is this something that we see, maybe this will work out?
Yeah, so Cade, I would love to see it continue to work out. I love some of the new rule changes. The kickoff rule change, obviously increasing safety. There's a lot of concerns with that. Received some high praise from Will Muschamp actually recently. But in terms of do I think it will work out, I honestly don't. Viewership was fairly high to start in week 1. It's now basically halved from where it was. And we're moving into, spring training's back for baseball. March Madness is about to kick off, and that's going to pull viewership even further away, and I don't see it lasting.
Yeah, they have that very short window of opportunity to gain viewers. Like you mentioned, we're coming off of the big Super Bowl hype. That's when they step in. That's why their numbers were so big. And like you mentioned, so many events are starting to come up. I mean, college basketball season is about to conclude, not to mention my favorite weekend of the year, Augusta's coming up in April at the Masters, and among tons of other things that are really getting going here, and Major League Baseball starting up, among other things, that's going to pull those viewers away from the XFL. I like how you compared it to a different league. For me, it's like European basketball, right? It's these guys that try out in the league, maybe play a year or two, or were big college stars and just didn't work, their game didn't transition. They can go overseas and play ball, maybe work out pretty good there and get re-signed by a team. I mean, one name that comes to mind is Jimmer Fredette, right? Jimmer Fredette comes out of college, big-time name, gets drafted by the Kings. That doesn't work out, bounces around the league a little bit before going overseas. Now he's a great player overseas, having a great career. And he's choosing to stay over there versus travel back and take his second hand of the NBA. I think that's a lot of these players too. They just didn't work out in the NFL. Let's give them a second chance. I don't mind it. I hope it works out, and we'll see where it goes from here, as we're 3 weeks in and the season keeps going on. All right, that wraps up this edition of The Locker Room. Make sure you stay tuned, as we'll have a brand new episode coming to you next Friday as well. For Kendall Smith and Will Heffernan, I'm Cade Crenshaw. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time right here on The Locker Room.